Let's start that conversation again. All right. So, reading one, the global context. Okay, which countries do you think would rank in the top tens in terms of higher crime rates? Would the United States be in the top 10 with the highest crime rates? Think about all the things happening in America. Uh, the U.S. Sorry. Are some countries safer than others? Can you think of why? I just think, well, like I said, in Belgrade, I felt very safe walking alone at night, and also seeing other people walking alone at night, seeing women walking home alone at night, or groups of women, and then also seeing men, young people, walking, and not ever feeling unsafe by that. There's also a lot of street food there, so I like eating food on the street. And I don't like to sleep, so I'm often up. So I just repeated all that for everybody here. So thanks. But yeah, with countries. Okay. So first sentences usually tell us the topic of the text. It's called the topic sentence. You can predict the content of a text by reading its first sentence. That's why a topic sentence is really important. Being able to write one. Okay. Why would a sociology textbook want to discuss crime in a global context? What do you think about the reading? What do you think the reading is about? Well, sociology is the scientific study of societies and the behavior of people in groups. Okay. So it wants to compare, right? Are there commonalities? Is there a comparison to be made? Is there a contrast? Let's look at these things. It's called the global context. Okay, let's read the first sentences of each of these. Let's underline them as well. Several facts about crimes are true all over the world. Okay, so we're going to learn about different facts that are true, the same things. Even so, dramatic differences do exist in international crime rates. Okay, so we looked at the what? The similarities, the comparisons, and now we're looking at contrast. What kind of essay could this be? I don't know. In the category of violent crimes, the United States is once again not in the top 10. Oh, nice. So, violent crimes, right? Talking about being attacked, murders, manslaughter, any of these things. Huh, interesting. Okay, so now we're talking about the United States is not in the top 10. So we're looking at maybe other countries or why the United States is not in the top 10. Violent crimes and property crimes represent two types of crimes that take place worldwide. Okay, of course. So property crimes, anytime anybody's things get stolen, whether it's in your house or outside on the street, there's a list of things. Cool. Each of these priority areas each of these priority areas contains a relative new category of crimes, transnational crimes. Okay, so one, we were looking at different countries and comparing them, and now we're looking at transnational. Trans meaning what? Like between, right? Transatlantic flight, between the Atlantic Ocean. Transnational, somebody who lives between countries, right? Kind of like, whoops, sorry, my arm. Kind of like me. All right, is there any more? That's it. It's just one page. Awesome blossom. And let's always look at the footnotes. So, larceny, the crime of stealing. Interpol, and international police, right? International, police. Uh, yeah, I didn't. But now I did. So we're good. The crime of stealing, larceny. So they have all these words for stealing, for crime. Words that are euphemisms make them softer sometimes. Fugitive, someone who is trying to avoid being caught, especially by the police. So a fugitive is somebody they're looking for. They're trying to find them. There's a movie, an old one, and then a remake with I think Harrison Ford called The Fugitive. Okay. So when you're on the run, it means that you're a fugitive. All right, so why would a sociology textbook want to discuss crime in a global context? I mean, we're looking at similarities between different cultures, why there are certain crime rates in certain areas, why, larceny, stealing things is here and there, and why there's violent crimes where people get attacked. But let's look at what the book says. several facts about crimes are true all over the world, right? So we're looking at all the world, all of society, and one big picture, right? And yeah, what kind of essay is this? Okay, by Linda A. Mooney, David Knox, Caroline Schrapp from Understanding Social Problems. This is probably a textbook, as they mentioned, right? And yeah, I think this is a comparison and contrast essay with more information, of course, but comparison. It's not Sean Bob essay. So yeah, we didn't really write one in class. Okay, several facts about crimes are true all over the world. First, crime is ubiquitous. There is no country where crime does not exist. Second, most countries have the same components in their criminal justice system: police, courts, and prisons. Third, adult males make up the largest category of crime suspects worldwide. And fourth, in all countries, stealing is the most common crime committed, whereas violent crime is a relative rare event. Okay, like I said, like in Ethiopia. Okay, this word ubiquitous, it's a kind of a difficult word. Let's jump to our Uglish.
And this is ubiquitous. This shapes how we think about our health.
But you can't hear it here because I need to use Chrome. No, I didn't say Chrome. I said Chrome. Chrome. Ubiquitous. Why do you think you're right, even if you're wrong? Because I'm always right. Uh-oh.
And this is ubiquitous. This shapes how we think about our
ubiquitous across the US.
To become so cheap and ubiquitous over the last decade.
Name due to their ubiquitous Chinese food that is oh so yummy.
What is ubiquitous?
Friendly.
mean?
You know, Trump was always a master of the media and knew enough to keep himself fairly ubiquitous on television.
And the ubiquitous force of this peer-to-peer revolution.
Filling craters with the ubiquitous dust. There's also
the ubiquitous dust. Oh my gosh, lots of words. What do you guys think it means? Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. That's what you're talking about. Dang it. I'm getting old. I'm just talking to you guys. Oh my gosh. Well, there's a video. There's a YouTube recording, so I'll put it up. Thanks. That's what you were trying to tell me. Sometimes I just forget things. But yeah, that was looking at Uglish. We're looking at the word ubiquitous. Now you can see. But it's always funny. It's always funny. Ubiquitous. Ubiquity. Something that is present, appearing, or found everywhere. His ubiquitous influence was felt by all the family. Cowboy hats are ubiquitous among the male singers of country music, probably, right? Not in like rap or dance music or EDM. I don't think cowboys. Male singers in the country music scene. First, crime is ubiquitous. There is no country where crime does not exist, right? This is the hint here. We'll see that later. There is no country where crime does not exist. These two negatives. No country does not exist. There is a country where crime exists, right? That's the opposite. So the word ubiquitous, once again, it means present, appearing, or found everywhere. What's something else that's ubiquitous on Earth? I don't know. You can say water is ubiquitous for most where human societies have been found, right? We need rivers or some fresh water to drink, otherwise we die. And now the modern state, pollution is ubiquitous in the world. Some places are higher than others. And crime, okay? But mainly they're talking about is property, stealing. Okay? In our country, stealing is the most Okay, stealing is the most common crime committed, whereas violent crime is a relatively rare event. Even so, dramatic differences do exist in international crime rates. First, the United States does not have the highest crime rate in the world. The United States ranks 12, we're almost there, among 165 nations, with Sweden, Denmark, Australia, and Great Britain in a rank order, each having a higher crime rate than the United States. Okay, and this is like, this is always for the population. Obviously, the United States has a higher population than these countries, so the crime rate, as opposed to how many incidents to the number of people, right? So there's a percentage, and it could be that the United States has a higher number of crimes, but well, with the population, well, right, if there's like 10% crime rate for every, like, I don't know, every 1,000 people, 10 people will get robbed, something like that. That's a percentage, right? But maybe 2 million people get robbed a day somewhere, and only 2,000 people. It depends on the size of the country sometimes. In the category of violent crime, the United States is once again not in the top 10s. Several developing countries, Namibia and Swaziland, as well as developed countries, Australia and Sweden, have higher crime rates than the United States. Property crimes show a similar pattern. The United States ranks 13th in property crimes, car theft, burglary, and larceny, with Sweden, Denmark, and Australia, and Great Britain topping the list. Violent crime and property crimes represent just two types of crimes that take place worldwide. Although we are concerned about these types of crimes and the possibility of victimization, to victimize somebody, to make somebody into a victim, and rather than make the perpetrator perpetrating, we're talking about the victim now, person receiving the crime. Interpol has identified 6 global priority areas: fighting drugs and criminal organizations, e.g., for example, drug trafficking, so drugs, we didn't talk about that, going after financial and high-tech crimes, counterfeiting, business and financial fraud, and cyber crimes, okay, kind of like FTX, the guy that stole all the money, Scott Friedman, SBB, finding fugitives, people who are running from the law, countering terrorism. Okay, that became, the euphemism for doing all sorts of things to people. Stopping the trafficking of human beings. Okay, so taking people, kidnapping, using them for different purposes, work most of the time, some form of work. Ooh. Fighting corruption, enforcing the rule of law. Okay, so that's something that needs to be done everywhere in the world. Fighting corruption. We need to help. Each of these priority areas contains a relatively new category of crimes: transnational crimes. As defined by the U.S. Department of Justice, transnational crime is organized criminal activity across one or more national borders. Human trafficking for sexual exploitation, forced labor, and child soldiers are other examples of transnational crimes. Okay, so this child soldier thing, something that's happened, I guess, all over the world. We think about it in Africa mainly, but in other parts of the world where there have been wars, probably Chechnya, Afghanistan, any of these places where people who are considered children are fighting in wars, and probably in Ethiopia, things like that, civil wars. But this is when you kidnap children from different places, villages, even outside of the country, and make them into soldiers. You can probably find some movie or story about that on the news if you're interested. Okay, let's look at these words. So ubiquitous, something that's found everywhere, all over the world. Dramatic, what does that mean? Okay, you know the word drama. Okay, you know that in a drama, there's a lot of high energy, high something, lots of things that happen, from like slow and loving to like explosions. Okay, so think about what that word dramatic, and think about the dramatic difference in crime rates. Do exist international crime rates. developing countries. Okay, so and developed countries. These are the words we use. We don't use the words first world and second, third world anymore. You know, it's not about, I guess, identifying them as first class or second class. It's more about talking about, did they develop? Are they an underdeveloped country? Actually, is a better word sometimes. You know, and then we have different words like second tier, depending on how much money they make or something. The GDP, the gross domestic product, how much money they make, depending on how many people live in that country, you know, to talk about the wealth of a country. And yeah, I don't think it's always just about what technologies exist, because, I mean, Turkey and Serbia are both considered developing countries, you know. And there's, you know, probably different things as well about institutions, about corruption, about environmental standards that, you know, when we talk about how do you get into the EU, stuff like that. If that's the goal. Countering terrorism, right? So counter, you know, the word count means to count. This is not the same. To counter something is if somebody, like, let's say, attacks you, then you attack again, counter attack, right? Countering terrorism means to, like, stop or prevent it. A counter attack means you, like, something happens and then you counter it, you go around it, you know. Transnational, like I said, trans means between, and then national is between countries, nations, right? So between different countries, these crimes are happening across different borders. This is the global society, global economy, global crime networks that are out there. And yeah, a lot of countries, you know, richer countries or, you know, places use poorer countries for things like drugs, for human trafficking, okay? For financial crimes. I mean, even just like saving tax money by going to another country to put your money so that you don't get taxed at the same rate, you know? What do we call these? Safe harbors, places where countries like Switzerland, the Canary Islands, Ireland, where the tax rates are lower, so certain corporations open up like a part of their business there and store all their money so they don't have to pay taxes. Is it a crime? Yes. Is it getting punished? No, because we call that a white collar crime. Crimes that are done not by, like, you know, by business people. And those are probably the worst ones. These are the ones that cause corruption. These are the ones that cause, you know, people to not be able to make money because of certain things. People who lose their investments in banking or their savings and things like that. You know, when a bank shuts down and everybody loses their money, like it's been happening in the United States, you have to think about these things, these, you know, white collar crimes, these financial things, financial and high tech crimes, right? So, hackers, which is gonna be, I mean, it's already growing as a problem. It's gonna just only get worse. All right, let's try to finish this so we can do the last chapter and after the break. And why don't we, instead of taking a lunch at 12, I'm hungry though. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. We just go from 12 to 1 and finish, or do we take a break, 12:30 to 1:30? Let's just do 1 hour per thing today. It's a long day. Okay, so do you guys take notes about these readings? You know, do you listen to me and take notes? You should try. Think about this as a presentation where you're going to be tested on it. This is what these test questions look like, main ideas. So if you're watching at home, take notes sometimes. Yeah. According to the data in this reading, the United States has higher general crime rates than Sweden, Denmark, Australia, and Great Britain. Is that true or false? It is false. And we knew that even in the first topic sentence, right? According to the same sources, the United States has a higher violent crime rate than Sweden and Australia. That's Australia. Yeah. False. I don't know why they're trying to prove that America's a safe place or something. Women in every country are less likely to commit crimes than men. Women in every country are less likely to commit crimes than men. Is this true? Yes, of course. Why? I don't know. I guess, we also have these gender roles. We think about if you're going to be poor, well, the lady will stay at home and take care of things while the guy goes out and steals. I don't know. In recent years, violent crime has been the priority for Interpol. Let's see where we see Interpol. Identified, although we're concerned about these types of crimes and possibilities of victimization, right? This is like a contrast. So not this. We're looking at different 6 global priority areas. None of them include any kind of violent crime. There could be violent crime when you're drug trafficking, right? There could be, but we're not looking at it specifically. We're looking at these types of 6 different areas, priority areas. So no, they're not looking at violent crime. They're looking more at those 6 list of things. Transnational crime is a new category of crime that has been given priority status. Yes. Okay, this is the new thing. Interpol is the international police. Of course. Why would they be doing domestic stuff? No. False. The U.S. has a lower general crime rate. False. The U.S. has a lower violent crime rate. True. Women do not cause as much crime. You should just have more women out there. False. Interpol has 6 global priority areas, not just 1. Okay? And it's not violent crimes at the moment. Transnational crime is a new category of crime that has been given priority. True. Okay? Where do we find that? Because we always have to find the evidence. And they should also give you the evidence for when they tell it's true. Each of these priorities contains relative new categories. Okay, human trafficking, blah, blah, blah. Each of these priority areas contains a relative new category of crimes. Okay, so within all of these, right? Because counterterrorism stuff, you have to, it's between borders, It's like one country's doing something to another country or somebody's getting help. I don't know. Terrorism. It's like the buzzword that we use to label anything, to kind of like go in and kind of break people's, rights in the courts. We have like stricter things for people we consider terrorists. And, do we consider domestic terrorism something? If somebody's plotting to destroy a building or a government institution or to kill a government official, is that considered terrorism? Domestic terrorism? Or is it just certain people from certain parts of the world that look a certain way that we call those people terrorists, Because that word has been used quite often in American media to like talk about and make it and to vilify. It's the opposite of a euphemism, right? We actually use a word to make it sound even crazier. Just like when we call like Somali pirates. Then you think like, oh my God, Blackbeard and Pirates of the Caribbean and these people are, have eye patches and scary. But what if we just thought of them as, thieves, international boat thieves? Like, then would you have the same idea? No. We label certain people in the world, certain parts of the world as people who are terrorists and pirates. But if I took a boat from, the Aegean coast, am I a pirate? I don't know. Close reading. Read the quotes in the reading. Circle a statement that best explains each quote. Share your answers with a partner. Dramatic differences do exist in international crime rates. Okay. What does this mean? Does it mean that there's like a small difference, a medium-sized difference, or like a big one? What does dramatic mean? Okay. Well, usually when I'm watching something dramatic, it's something big, right? Crime is different all over the world. Crime rates are different all over the world. We're talking about crime rates, okay? are different, and there's like a dramatic differences. Some places being much safer than the others, some places not so much. I gotta answer. The United States ranks 12th amongst 165 nations, with Sweden, Denmark, and Australia in rank order, each having a higher crime rate than the United States. So rank order here means that Sweden has a higher rate, Denmark has a higher one, Australia has a higher one, and then Great Britain out of these has a lower one, right? This is from paragraph 2. Great Britain has more crimes than the United States. Denmark has less crimes. No, so Denmark has more, right? Sweden, out of these 4, and not talking about every country in the world, they're just comparing these 4. Sweden has the highest one, right? So this is the correct answer. And this close reading is more about understanding the grammar rather than the context itself, right? These questions, the main ideas, are always talking about what they're reading about. This is like, can you read this deeply, closely, deep? Violent crime and property crimes represent just 2 types of crimes that take place worldwide. Okay. Although we are concerned about these types of crimes and the possibility of victimization, Interpol has identified 6 global priorities. Okay, it's talking about transnational crimes or things that happen all over the world between countries. Both property crime and violent crime get the most attention from Interpol. Okay. Although, think about what that means. Okay, this is our little key transition signal here. Neither property crime nor violent crime gets the most attention from Interpol. B. This is the correct one. They have other 6 different global priorities that are more important to them. Although they still have to worry about that, right? They still worry about violence and property theft. So B, A, B. 50-50. Okay. So close readings, think about transition signals. Is it a contrast? Is it showing a similarity? Is there a cause and effect? Is there a reason for something? What is the transition signal here? Okay, this one we're doing a comparison, right? Is having a higher something than, right? So we're talking about comparisons. He is taller than him. She is faster than him, blah, blah, blah. Here's our thing here, differences, right? Yeah. Coolio. Vocabulary, guessing from context. Okay, one way to guess the meaning of an unknown word in a reading is to look for definitions within the reading. Sometimes they just explain to you, right? Another way is to look for examples that would give you an idea of what the word means. Sometimes they say, I don't know, recidivism. When a person, the rate at which people reoffend again or repeat a crime or go back to jail, actually, usually that's what it is. That's, you put those in those 2 commas and you're giving extra information, right? Other times they just explain it in a different way. So there has been a dramatic decrease in crime rates in New York City in the past 10 years. This remarkable decline, right? Decrease, remarkable, okay? So we're just paraphrasing. We're using different wording to talk about the same thing. This is equal to each other, right? Why did I write an I? Let's write an equal sign. You can't really tell. Dramatic decrease, remarkable decline. Wow. Is considered to be partly the result of new policing techniques in the city. The New York City Police Department has been praised for its success in lowering the crime rate in the nation's largest city. In 2001, there were 649 murders in the city compared with 329 murders in 2010. This represents a 50% drop in a 10-year period. This is not true, guys. New York City didn't do anything different than any other city in the world or in the United States. Over this period of time, crime rates just went down in the entire country. And it could have been because there was better jobs. But they always say this. They say that the police, they were doing this thing called broken windows policy, where you see broken windows in a neighborhood, well, you patrol that neighborhood more. You start harassing people that live in those places. there's this concept that if people didn't care about their windows and their houses, they didn't care about crime, they started stealing, and it allowed the New York police to be more discriminatory towards certain people in the United States, and in New York City. But this is not. So this is a case. They call it correlation does not equal causation. So when you look at something, you don't always know the cause of why it went down. The fact is, from 2000 to the 2010s, crime in the United States was just going down in general. Okay, it might have been many different things. Sometimes I think about it was rap music that went away. It wasn't as popular, so people didn't look at crime in the same way. They didn't want to become gangsters and thugs. I don't know. It's hard to say. I kind of believe it because I grew up around that time. So, in the 90s and the early 2000s, there was a lot of crime, violent crimes, property theft, and it just went dramatically down. Not because of anything anybody did, okay? They created many youth correctional facilities for young people, prisons, right? They built new ones because they were expecting the crime rate to keep going up, and it didn't. It went down. They have all these jails that don't have anybody in it because they just assumed that the crime rate would always go up, and there was many other things. Okay, so the idea of correlation is that something goes down and you think, oh, it's because of this, but really there's many different causes, there's many different variables, there's many different reasons about why something happens, and nobody really knows. Okay, so if you look at this data, well, it's not true necessarily. It's not something that the New York Police Department did. Okay, they probably actually made the crime worse, and they probably made people more hostile to the police, and the police more hostile to citizens. Okay, so New York during this time was not a good place to live. Okay, look for a definition. The dramatic decrease is remarkable, right? It's a positive decrease, a success, one for which the police department has been praised. Okay, look for examples with the statistics given of a 50% drop, right? 50% drop. It is clear that the word dramatic refers to something that is very impressive. Okay, 50 is a high number, right? Like a 2% drop, that's insignificant. It's not a dramatic decrease. Okay, we could use words like significant as well as the word dramatic. Okay, and dramatic has a really strong meaning, right? Think about those dramas, those soap operas and things like that. Some dramatic thing happens. Okay, remarkable is also like what we call a hyperbole. A hyperbole is when you say something bigger than it is. Exaggerated statements, when you exaggerate something, claims not to be taken literally. He vowed, what did I say? Exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally. Like my head exploded. That's a hyperbole, right? Oh, he is the most interesting human being on the planet, or something like that. And this is opinions. They're not talking about facts or something like that. It's not like knowing Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk is the richest person in the world. That's not a hyperbole. That could be a fact. I don't know which one is which. He vowed revenge with oaths and hyperboles. You can't accuse us of hyperbole. Those are bad examples. It's clear that the word dramatic refers to something that is very impressive. Okay, so we have all these things. We have the statistics to prove it. Okay. Let's try to do just number one, and because for these examples we're gonna look at just different countries, and then you're gonna guess. But what does the D and E stand for? The definition and the example. And I can't write these all out, can I? The word ubiquitous. First, true. All over the world, there is no country where crime does not exist. I'm going to say that is not the definition, but an example. There is no place in the world that crime does not exist, right? Notice that they don't use contractions, right? They're using words like does not, there is no. They're not saying there's no country. Country, not place, sorry. And I don't think I need in the world. Yeah. That crime does not exist. Okay, what would I say then? Something that can be found everywhere. I don't know. I think this is, I'm going to look for the example. That's what the example is. Second, in all countries, stealing is the most common crime committed, whereas, nope, doesn't know about that there. Maybe something about all over the world as well. That could be, that's still, I guess, an example. Right? Say, we have 7 minutes, we can finish this. Yeah. What's your guess? Write it down. Developing country, right? Let's look around several developing countries, Namibia and Swaziland. If we look up those places, they're in Africa. Then we'll just say countries in Africa versus developed countries, Australia and Sweden. So what we might consider places where people want to move to and places where people want to move away from. I don't know. There's not really that much, right? Yeah, they don't really. They're examples. So these are examples. Got it? Got it. So I would say these are examples. They said Namibia. Swaziland, which is a part of South Africa where they speak Swahili. Developed countries. What did they say? Sweden, Australia. Or whatever. I don't know. They list a bunch of other ones. I got it. Transnational. Relatively new category of crime. So the word trans, right? When we think about this thing in the news, if you think about transgender, right? It's between genders. This idea that there are people that exist between these two poles, right? Just like transnational, like crime that happens between two countries or many, more than two, right? Relative new trans crime, blah. And here's a definition, is organized criminal activity across one or more national borders. So this is called a definition, right? So I'm going to put the D here. Crime that happens. See, this is like, I don't like it when people do this either. Organized criminal activities. Organized criminal activities. Help me. That happen between two or more countries? Is that what it said? I don't know. Criminal activity across one or more national boundaries. Sorry. Across one or more national borders. Something like that. You got it. Okay. So yeah, between countries, right? National border. So now we know that the word transnational crime is, right? But then across one or more national borders, that's what transnational means. Okay, well, this is a D. Let's put those all. I think these are examples. And you want to guess? Sure. A country that is developed, developing. A developing country that is still developing. Ubiquitous all over the world. Let's see what it says. Boom, boom, boom. Definition. There is no definition. There's no country where is that a definition? There's no country where crime does not exist. There is no country where crime. Ubiquitous means everywhere. Yeah, I don't know if that's definite. I guess they're explaining it. Yeah, whatever. Okay. This is better. This is D. But they give examples as well. Come on, there's like a context. This is like obvious, right? Across one or more national boundaries, criminal activity. So I guess we don't need that because that's talking about transnational crime, right? Nice. And let's finish this. Read the dictionary entries for the word counter. I like dictionaries. Malcolm X liked dictionaries. You guys should start using dictionaries because they do help you understand the language, give you good examples. Counter, to react to a statement, criticism, argument, action, etc. by saying or doing something that will prove the statement is not true or that have an opposite effect. Somebody tries to punch you, you counter. You don't get punched, they get punched. Somebody has an argument, you counter it, okay, by proving that it is not true. 2, to do something to reduce, this is verb, right? To reduce the bad effects of something or defend yourself against them. Okay, it's to counter attack. Adverb, against. He is counter. How would I use this in a sentence? Against something. Counter. Counter intelligence, right? Counter. He walked counterclockwise, against the clock, not with the clock. Counterclockwise. Have you ever heard that? Noun. A counter, a flat surface in a kitchen or store where you work or prepare food. Yeah. A flat, narrow surface where you're served or where you pay in a bank or store. A piece of electrical equipment that counts something. A counting machine. A flat, narrow surface where you serve or pay in a bank. The counter. Go to the bank counter. Go to the payment counter. Okay. The area in your kitchen. That place where between the sink and the, where you can cut things up. That's the kitchen counter. All right. And then as a prefix, okay, you add it on top of something, the opposite of something. So counterterrorism, counterattack, given as a reaction to something, matching something. Let's see. To counter, okay, so we have this to, right? And that's the infinitive. So we're going to need what after an infinitive? A verb. To counter the tendency to recidivism, right, to reoffend, prisoners have set up new programs that help inmates. To counter, to react against something. I'm going to say this is a verb. I'm going to say this is verb 2, the second one. Let's find out if I'm right. The lawyers countered against the accusation to accuse somebody, right, to blame somebody. Accusation, okay, against his client by calling a witness who said his client was at home all the time of the crime. So he's countering something, an argument, a statement made by somebody. So I'm going to say this one's a verb, right? We know this because of the ED in the past tense, the simple past right there. Okay, some bank robbers go right up to the bank counter to threaten the employees and demand money. Hey, give me all your money, right? So this is the noun version. This is to, not in the kitchen. Okay. It runs counter. It runs counter. So this is a verb, right? And what happens, what goes after a verb sometimes to change it? Well, an adverb. Okay. So this is, it runs against American law to allow child labor. Okay. It runs counter to something. He ran counterclockwise, adding some extra things on there. The inspector told us that the $50 bills were all counterfeit. See, this goes in front of this thing, feet. I think it's probably a French word. Is it? Let's check. Dictionaries are our friends. I don't know. Yeah, it is French. Counterfeit, contra, in opposition, face à to make. Weird. Cool. This is prefix, the opposite of something. Given as a reaction, matching something. Matching something. It matches. This one's not opposite. to counterfeit something, to make it the same, to match it, to make it equal, to try to make it look as equal as possible, right? Cool. All right. This is 3. And there's adverb is only 1, so we don't need to put that. Let's check those. Dictionary. I like these. These are fun. Verb 2. Verb 1. Noun 2. Adverb. Prefix 1. I don't know. Okay. The opposite of something? I don't think so. Counterfeit's not the opposite. It's the same. But we're trying to make it the same. We're trying to like pretend like we made something. I don't know. I don't agree, dude. All right. How intense is the growth? Give a number to each one of these, with 1 being least intense and 5 being most intense. Okay. So now we're grading. We're giving like a level to these words, right? Discuss with the partner. Some disagreement is possible. Yeah, of course. Every disagreement is possible. So which one do you think is the highest? Explosive growth, significant growth, considerable growth, or dramatic, okay? And this is like one of those things. Until you hear these words and you see examples, you really don't know in a language, like how, what do you call this? My hair itches. I'm going to say that considerable doesn't sound as strong. Okay, I'm going to say significant is like getting there. Okay, I'm going to say slight growth. I don't know. Let's just say like 5% or something. That's a 5. That's not a 5, Bob. Considerable. I don't know. Let's get that up to like 10-ish. Significant. This is when I would get up to like greater than 25%. You know? And it depends on the context, right? Sometimes like significant growth is just a 1% growth in GDP. It's significant for that year. If usually it's only 0.005 or something, right? I'm going to say explosive is like higher than 50%. I'm going to say dramatic, like they gave us an example before, is anywhere around 50%. This is going to be greater. That's the greater sign than 50%. Or even double. I don't know. It could be like 200%. That's explosive. That means that something is, you know? So I'm going to say this one is the most intense. And this one is the second most intense. Let's see the answer. Let's take a break. Say 5. Oh, really? 3, 2, 4. Significant? I disagree. The word consider is like kind of a weak word. Significant means like strong or important, right? Considerable. Okay, let's just put the little thing. This is just the feeling. If I was a writer, I think any of these would be okay. But I definitely think explosive is stronger than dramatic, okay? And slight is weaker. Okay. Any questions about this reading? We won't talk any more about it. Thinking about crime, about international crime, violent crime versus theft, property crime. All right. So that's it. That's the reading. Learn these words. Put them into your Quizlet. We haven't talked about Quizlet in a while. But I'll come back to it. I'll add some words. You guys have a reading test, I think, at some point. So you guys got to prepare for that. I don't have any information for you. I'll find out someday. Let's take a break. I'm a little hungry, so we'll come back at 12:30, okay? And we'll finish the last reading, which is about what? About GMOs. So we're just kind of switching topics. But I'll see you later. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye.